Let me just make that clear.
Yeah,
So
no, definitely not. But like, it's one of those things where people are gonna make their opinions about the things that happen, and we don't have to agree. So kind of fuck those people. But
jeez.
what I can say is that most people are liking Drake's new song that came out, "Laugh Now, Cry Later."
It's all right.
You don't really like it like that.
Nah,
As soon as Lau heard it, he said he was top 10 of all time. That's what he said.
All right, so Nigel has a habit of changing the narrative. He loves.
Did you not say that? I'm not changing the narrative.
I'm telling you, Smash.
It was like 12:01. He's like, oh, like Drake is top 10.
12:01. The song is longer than 60 seconds.
I was like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
Lau was like, oh, he dropped a new song. He's the GOAT, bro.
He heard
like,
you
listen
words.
to it? Yeah. He said, yeah. Yep,
so
that's the GOAT talking.
So what I really said before, the pathological liar started to speak about it, that I said if the next Drake album is fired and it's like on the level of Nothing Was the Same, Take Care of, blah, 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 I think it's fair to start putting him in the conversation of top 10 rap artists of all time. Not lyrical ability, as the overall package, top 10 of all time, if his next album is good. Because at that point, in my argument is like, how many good albums does he need to have before we put him in that conversation?
Well,
some of these rappers that we put in our top 10s, they don't have as many good albums as he does. So let's be fair. And I know, Drake is like LeBron, right? Not everybody likes LeBron. A lot of people love to hate LeBron, and they do the same thing with Drake. And I feel like if the next album is a good album, is fire, I think it's fair to put him in that conversation.
I mean,
that's what I said.
I to be honest with you, I don't think he has to. To be honest with you, Drake does not have to put out another album for the rest of his life, and it should be talked in the top 10 conversation. Like, and it just like the conversation was this week about Drake being I forget who it was that brought it up, but Drake being the Michael Jackson of our era.
Fat Joe.
Yeah, Fat Joe, Jopra. Like, I feel like there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, he's done it big. There's no one that's ever done it as big as Drake. And there will be an artist there will be an artist that will surpass Drake one day. That's without question.
Yeah. It's history.
That just sounds like a crazy comparison to me, though. Like, I don't know. I don't like it because it just sounds weird to me. Like, I feel like just two totally different artists. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the saying. I mean, I get it. I get why somebody would say the Michael Jackson of our era, but that just sounds so weird. Like, it just feels weird even saying that. To me, it's
it's the truth.
I hear you. I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing things since he was like a kid. Like, I get it. Like, but at the same point in time, it just feels weird to say it. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that because of like you're hanging on to like the nostalgia of Michael Jackson, and you're like, man, I'm not the biggest Drake fan, so that's why I'm saying it? Or you're saying it because you're kind of like...
love to say I don't like Drake, man.
Let me finish. Or you're saying it because, you think it's disrespectful to Michael Jackson's name.
I just think it's weird when we start like try to put people in this air of, oh, well, they're the this of our era. It's like, no, like Drake is Drake to me. I don't think there will ever be another Drake. There will be artists that'll be like Drake. There'll be artists that will surpass Drake. But Drake is Drake, like Madonna is Madonna, like Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson. I just don't like saying like, oh, he's the this of our era. Like, to me, like, nah, I don't think he's the Michael Jackson. I think Drake is Drake. And I think it's just weird to kind of compare them because they're just different. You know what I mean? They're just different.
I mean, technically, I get where you're coming from, but I think at the same time, it's just like the conversation was earlier this year about Chris. Like, to be honest with you, I had this conversation with a friend about the Beyonce Chris Brown thing, and really, you know what I'm saying, like how Beyonce is like the Michael Jackson of this era. when it may really be Chris Brown at the end of the day. But I think, and I'm not, and trust me, I've had this conversation a couple times. So I know Michael Jackson's catalog pretty good inside and out. And there's a possibility that there's a whole conversation about when you have a real conversation about Michael Jackson's catalog, there's enough evidence to say how there's others that you can put in front of him, right?
Right.
Because of just like him having really, he only had in his lifetime he only had 5 albums in his lifetime, and like solo albums, I believe, while he was alive, 5 or 6. And we only really live off of those 1 or 2 albums, Off the Wall and Thriller, I believe.
Yeah.
So like,
Yep.
and so we pretty much give him we've given him this highest esteem because of something he did in the 70s, right? And he lived off of it, and he did amazing work because it was extremely creative as well. And just a genius in terms of a businessman. But when you look at Drake in the same regard, I mean, I think Drake checks the boxes in terms of iconic star within rap. He would be, to me, I agree, he is like the Michael Jackson. Like, I remember when Drake went to Howard, he just popped up in Howard one time. And this was after he had put out the If You're Reading This Too Late or whatever it was. And he was like, I do not chase girls, they'll run a mile for me. He literally pulled up to Howard, unannounced, came. As soon as they found out, you had people running from one end of the campus all the way to the other just to see Drake. Like,
I mean, man, fuck that.
That's Michael Jackson's shit.
We could talk about an experience that we shared when we went to fucking Bliss, bruh. When we went to fucking Bliss, that we missed fucking Drake, but we
yeah, because we went there for Drake, right?
Yeah, but remember how there was one point in time that night where the club was going fucking crazy, and apparently Drake was there, and we fucking missed it. Like,
really?
So, yeah, so like it's just kind of like,
God damn,
it was kind of like what you're saying is true, bro. I think he's the biggest artist in the fucking world, right? I mean, he's obviously the biggest rap artist, and as far as other genres, he definitely has that crossover appeal. You know what I mean? So I feel like that when Fat Joe and other people are saying he's the Michael Jackson of the era, in my opinion, I think they're just kind of like trying to relate, like, look, this is how big Drake is.
Right.
I don't look at it as kind of like they're trying to discredit Michael, because he's a GOAT, right? He's a legend, the king of pop, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they're trying to say like Drake passed Michael in musical success, and that's an argument for another day if you believe that or not. But the way I took it is just like, look, Michael's here, and Drake is up there too. You know, he's that damn big and that damn good, and that's how I see that.
I'm not going to argue that.
And I feel like that his new song that he came out, I think it's a good song. Is it his best song that he ever made? No, but it's a good song. You know what I mean? It's a solid song. It's like, here we go. We're about to go back into OVO season, right?
Pretty
or
much.
Drake season. And now my only gripe with the song is just kind of like, I was talking to Nigel a little bit earlier about this, is there's a conversation starting to build up saying that Lil Durk carried Drake on the song, which I just think that's extremely ridiculous. How a guy who had 15 seconds on a 4-minute fucking song carried him. And what he said, all those 15 seconds didn't like fucking blow the world away. Any fucking rapper could have said what he said, So,
but I think
that's just like my only gripe with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. Like, I've listened to the song a couple times. I think, and there are moments where I've, like you said, because Dirk's part was so short that I kind of did forget that he was on the song at some point. But in the same breath, I think, I'm not going to say he carried it, but I think the song's success is part of Lil Durk's contribution. And I only say that because when I listened to the song initially, I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't until Durk's part came on, and it cut the beat differently than what Drake was doing. Right. That I was like, all right, cool, I can rock with this. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of conversations to be had about Drake, and I'll just leave it at this. I think Loverboy comes out next week, I think, or something like that, or the 28th, I believe. So I got my prediction. I think whenever he drops this within the next coming weeks, I think he's going to do maybe, I would say 800 to 900.
Fair enough.
Damn, I was gonna say like 700 to 750.
Nah, yeah.
I mean,
He's gonna do numbers, especially right now. Like Drake's gonna kill it.
700 is numbers though.
Yeah,
that's like
but
going diamond today, damn near.
Yeah, I hear y'all, but I think he might be like near platinum, especially if like he has like another song that comes out like that before this is all said and done. He might go platinum very quickly.
So
He's gonna go platinum.
You gonna probably ask the same question I'm thinking. Go ahead, La.
no, I was gonna ask. I was gonna say we can all agree that he's going immediately gold in the first week.
Oh yeah.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
He's probably going to go gold before the album drops. To be honest, based off whatever, if he's going to he may end up going platinum just off this single. To be honest with you,
Possible.
Yeah,
man, it's possible.
So
It's possible.
Before we jump off of this, like I want to ask you a question, then Nigel. If he was to do the million number, right?
Yeah.
In this climate today,
Okay.
in 2020, despite granted it's a pandemic, but he would be doing first week numbers that is rarely seen anymore.
Okay.
Would you still argue that he's probably not at that Michael Jackson, or would you still feel like you don't see why people would compare them, even if he has home running numbers like that?
My issue with the statement isn't necessarily the comparison. I just don't agree with it. Like like I said, I just don't like comparing people to that. Like, it's like Drake is great. I'm not going to try and take away from Drake's greatness, but I just don't agree with calling him the Michael Jackson because I just feel like they're just two separate entities. You know what I mean?
But they're both icons, so.
And that's fine. That's cool. And they're both separate people. Like, you know what I mean? That's just the way I see it. Like, they're just separate. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like thinking of one in comparison to another because I feel like you're just taking a lot into account at that point in time. They're just different. They're too different for me to really compare. That's all.
All right. So quick question. So do you feel as though when you look at someone like LeBron versus, or not LeBron versus, but when they have the MJ LeBron conversations or whatever, do you feel like those conversations are unnecessary as well?
No, it's not necessarily that I think they're unnecessary. I just think LeBron is LeBron, and I think Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan is the best basketball player of all time. But I fully understand why the debate comes up. To me, it's like I think that comparison is a little better because they're playing the same sport, you know, like different time eras, different things going on. But at the same point in time, like you got Michael Jackson in the 70s and 80s with, you know, Off the Wall, Bad, and Thriller. Okay, cool. But like you're talking about like two totally different time periods, two totally different people, two different genres. Like it's just different. Like, you know what I mean?
But
I just don't like the comparison.
I get it. I mean, to me, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I can understand. Honestly, when you put that more into perspective, I gotta favor Drake on that. To be honest with you, because I think Drake has a harder time than Michael Jackson does.
Yeah, I
at the end of the
disagree.
day. I see it. He has a harder time than Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson lived in an era where you can put out one album, and granted, he wasn't writing all his own music either. So he was putting out music, maybe one album every 3 or 4 to 5 years sometimes.
Yeah.
And that
In
would carry him.
comparison to someone like Drake who puts out an album every year, in order to get the numbers that he gets, he's not even getting to reach 1 million today is like to become a platinum rapper within the first week or 2 weeks is a hard task today in comparison to back then.
I disagree with that. I mean, that's just
No,
You say you disagree with that.
I disagree that so the reason I disagree with parts of what you said only because like I feel like Drake is like highly accessible. You know what I mean? Like, so to the world, you know what I mean? Michael Jackson wasn't always highly accessible, but yet like he was like worldwide known in like the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? And that's like just like when I feel like media was like don't get me wrong, it was a I mean, is it though? Like, you know what I mean? With the internet in play?
Yes, it's absolutely. It's easier because it's easier because you look at someone like
I don't know, man.
If you live during a time where there's no internet, right? The only thing the thing that made people want to actually be attracted to you was people sat around thought, oh, what does he do for a living? What does Michael Jackson's house look like? X, Y, and Z, right?
Okay.
Michael Jackson could call up any publication and be like, hey, come down to the ranch. Come down to it's not the ranch, Never Everland, right?
Okay.
And you go there. I watched the 60 Minutes documentary on him.
That's cool.
Everybody did. Everybody did. And I think during that time, the opinions of many people, definitely from a fan perspective, outside of just the music itself, was ran off of publications, off of whatever the media tells people. People were more inclined to believe the news because you didn't have a Shade Room. You didn't have TMZ. You know what I'm saying? Or if you did have something like a TMZ, which was like, I think it was like Esquire or something, not Esquire, but it was another magazine publication that no one really took serious. So like, I think Michael Jackson had an easier time. And on top of it, the marketing dollars were the budgets were bigger back then. So he was able to actually put in $1 million or $2 or $3 million into marketing his music. Drake puts out music every year. He does have writers. He's been on the charts for 270 weeks or some wild shit like that.
Right.
Like he's doing it. And on top of it, to make yourself more easily accessible means in order to keep the attention of people at a certain rate, you have to be in front of a camera more often, which takes away from you being able to do what you want to do more of. So to me, I think it's harder in this era. We live in a microwave attention span era in comparison to back then.
I hear you, but like at the same point in time, like I just don't fully agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that also we're kind of I feel like the conversation's taking a little bit of a turn. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like we're talking more or less about the way
it's a good conversation though.
I hear you, but it's like at the same point in time, I feel like I'm not really trying to argue more or less the fact of Drake's, like, even though I did bring it up, his accessibility and all that other stuff. I just like music wise and the way we perceive them. Like, I just don't agree with the way we think. Like, I just don't agree with that assessment. Like I said, I just think they're two different people, two different genres, A lot of different things go into the way we access the artist. A lot of different things go into the marketing. Like that's all a different discussion. You know what I mean? I understand why you're saying that because it's part of the discussion. But at the same point in time, that's not where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? So it's like, I hear you. I just don't really fully agree with it.
So you're coming from the standpoint of just the music itself then?
Yeah, there's just different artists. That's all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just different artists. And I feel like the way we perceive them is just different. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's just too many differences between the entity known as Drake and the entity known as Michael Jackson to say like, hey, he is the Michael Jackson of our era. I just don't agree with that comparison. But they're both fucking great.
But there's a lot of similarities as well.
So what you're saying is kind of like this, right? Let's say if somebody was like, "Oh, Drake is the Jay-Z of our era," would that be something that you'd be more comfortable with because they're within the same genre? Then?
Absolutely, and okay, I would agree to that. Oh, you don't, because you're Jay-Z. You're Jay-Z.
No, but no. It's not even that. To be honest with you, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. I'll die. I'll cry when Jay-Z dies. I have no problem saying that. Right. The same probably with Drake because they're two of the biggest artists in the music has had an effect on me.
Do you think it'll be a bigger deal when Jay-Z dies and when Drake dies, or do you think it'll be a big deal when they both die?
I think it's equal. I think it's going to be equal.
I think it'd be bigger with Hov, right? Because there's a lot of hate with Drake, right? Even though he's the number one guy right now, there's a lot of people that don't fucking like him. Well, with Jay-Z, people love him, right? Yeah, you like I said, you're always gonna have opposition, but it's like 90% of people that know Jay-Z like Jay-Z. I feel like with Drake, it's more like 60% like him, while the other 30 fucking hates him.
But that changes when people die.
It does.
When people die,
I get it.
Look at Nipsey Hussle. God for like rest in peace and happy birthday to him. You look at someone like him, like
I get
Victor,
it, the fake love thing.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
and I think because of that, and on top of that, and it's the fake love, and on top of it, you don't get a chance to actually say, yo, I appreciate this artist until they're gone. Like, just like me and one of my friends talk about Chris Brown, right? And I ain't really going to detour too much off of it, but like someone like Chris Brown, he doesn't get some of the recognition he deserves because of some situations in his past. But when Chris Brown passes away, people will stop and look at all of his catalog, and there would be such high esteem for him one day. And I think the same would go for someone like Drake. I think personally, to answer Nigel's question, well, were you about to respond to what I said or not?
No, continue.
Well, responding back to what Nigel was saying, I think the reason why I don't even put Drake, like Drake and Jay-Z are within that same conversation, but in the same breath, I feel as though, and it pains me to say this, but the honest truth is they're just in two different, the stratosphere is different to me in terms of if we're just judging it off of music, there's overlap in the music a lot. But in the same breath, I think, I put it like this. I think Drake can do more of what Jay-Z can do than I think of what Jay-Z can do than what I think Jay-Z can do of what Drake does.
I don't see how you can say that for Jay-Z and not say that for Michael Jackson, man. Like, to me, that sounds crazy. Like,
but to me,
I mean, wow, like you hear me, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear Nigel saying.
I get what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying. I disagree with what you're saying. My thing is, when it comes down to it, when we look at music, at the end of the day, when you look at most
And I
of
love
Drake's
Jay-Z. Not as much as you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Huge Jay-Z fan. But it's the truth. Like, Jay-Z's going to give you certain content the same that Drake will, but Drake has the ability to sing on records and make them hits, right? Something that Jay-Z does not have the capability to do, and he knows
You're
that.
right.
Fair
But
enough.
in the
You're
same breath, when we start comparing, when you start looking at the biggest hits that Drake has had, a lot of those records are him singing. A lot of those big albums that we say, oh, this is most people, maybe not you necessarily, but most people, a lot of people that are Drake fans that have their top 3 albums, is Drake singing on most of it.
It's fair enough.
And it's still a rap album, but it's still a singing album to some degree. And it hits numbers that we've never seen before within hip hop, which is iconic status, which was the same that was going on with Michael Jackson throughout his career. Like Drake said in one of his, like, I've been listening to the unreleased music, and even he said in one of his songs, even when I die, I'll never die. Because of everything everything that he's put out. And the same goes for many artists, not just particular ones like Jay-Z or Michael Jackson, but
even Lil B, when he dies, he'll never die.
He's fucking
yeah,
legend.
he just put out a 6-hour album like last week or something.
I know you listen to all of it, right? You didn't listen to Bruno with the Pruno?
I listen to I sleep 6 hours, so I play it.
Yeah, man. I'll fuck with Lil B, man. I don't know. At the end of the day, like I said, I understand the comparison. I just don't like the comparison. That's all. Like, I think it's like I'm not gonna. Like, they were comparing like Tom Brady to like LeBron James or Michael Jordan. It's like that comparison is bullshit. Like, you know what I mean?
That's bullshit.
But they're both great. I can't take away from their greatness, but don't compare those two. Michael Jordan, LeBron. All right, I can do that all day. That's cool. But don't compare those two. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense.
No,
but
it doesn't make sense because Michael Jordan is greater.
I think depending on the person. Because some people would disagree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Michael Jordan is greater. That's why
Jordan had it harder on it. Jordan had it harder to some extent.
We're getting away from the topic though.
I know. We not. Like,
let's keep on moving on.
I'm glad that we all agree that Michael was greater. Though.
Yeah, we can all agree on that.
Hey, listeners, I know y'all listening to this. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you think. Do you think when it comes to Drake and Michael Jackson,
Drake?
in the words of Soulja Boy is really the GOAT.
Man, I fuck with Soulja Boy too, man. Shouts out to him.
Hey, but like I was saying, yo, let us know what you think. When we put up this episode, tell us what you think under the post or under the episode cover art. Let us know if you think on episode 22, when you have to compare the two, Drake or Michael Jackson, in terms of status? Do you think? Well, do you think there's a similarity between the two, and there's a right for the conversation? Do you or don't you? And who do you pick?